welcome to another great episode on Clearing the Fog podcast and my series, Love the Human, Hate the Behavior. I'm Melanie Schaefer-Meyer and a certified coach with the Life Coach School and Tony Robbins Madonnas. And today we are talking about Schadenfreude, which is the reveling in another person's misery or enjoyment of someone else's misfortune. We're going to talk a little bit about this this subject, Schadenfreude. The other word for it, the English word, because that one is a German word, which I really like saying, the Schadenfreude. I think it sounds pretty. But the English word for this is epicaricacy, which is kind of a mouthful. But either way, it really is just reveling in someone's misfortune, really enjoying that. So before we dive in, I'm just reminding you that this podcast series is all about being able to peel off the labels that we give our loved ones or those with whom we associate. So we're looking at a lot of behaviors associated with narcissism. We're removing the pressure of having to be a diagnostician, removing your tendency to identify somebody as a narcissist or somebody who has narcissistic personality disorder or even just narcissistic behavioral tendencies. We want to just peel off that label, because when you peel off that label, you stop trying to spin what just happened and pair it with all of the other happenings and somehow try to prove that they fit underneath this umbrella of this definition. Which when you do that, you really end up removing what you're actually trying to do is understand what just happened right in front of you. So instead of looking at the specific incident, you're just looking at a broad scope and you really end up missing the mark. So by removing labels, you really are saying, okay, what is actually happening in front of me? And that is, today we're studying Schadenfreude or epicaricacy. So this can show up in our loved ones whether or not they're a narcissist. So it's really important to look at this behavior. Are there patterns of behavior that they seem to just enjoy if somebody doesn't do well? And one of the ways that I've noticed that this has popped up is maybe in gossip circles where people are just sort of enjoying that someone looks foolish or wore something stupid, or just enjoying that they did something dumb, and they're sort of passing that around and get an enjoyment of, that's how we connect, is by gossiping about other people and how they're sort of not really doing well. And when that shows up inside of narcissism, there's another element, there's another layer that's going on, and it's where they're sort of congratulating themselves that they're not like that. There's a power and control that's happening, of elevation, of look at me, I'm better. I'm going to make fun of them because they're like that, which in turn, in some sort of indirect way, elevates me because I know I'm better than that and I'm not like that. And those sorts of things don't happen to me. Excuse me, I was taking a drink of water. Voice is getting a little dry. So, and this could be, they messed up at work. So this could be in a coworker situation where they're like, they embarrass themselves in the board meeting, or they sent an email accidentally to the whole group when they were supposed to send it to one. They're sort of enjoying the fact that they aren't as amazing as they should be in a social setting. So you're sort of enjoying that. Another way is if maybe they have the best yard in the neighborhood, and then for some reason they put the wrong chemicals on their lawn and it burns it, and you just sort of enjoy the fact that, it kind of went wrong for them, because somehow that makes yours not look as bad, or now yours is better than them. So that's that Schadenfreude. It's a passive way of enjoying somebody else's misfortunes, because in a passive way, somehow it makes the person enjoying that look and be a little bit better. There's some sort of gratification of elevation that's happening. So, what another piece of that, another similar thing that happens within narcissism is sadism, where Schadenfreude is more of a passive enjoyment of others' misfortune. Sadism is an active enjoyment of somebody's like squirming or not doing well. So it's like they will um, emotionally dismantle you in front of others, or poke fun at you and watch you squirm, or if it's a physically uh, harmful situation, that's where you get the bullies, and they're like pushing and shoving and punching and kicking and making sure that they are bigger and meaner. So it's this power dynamic of, look at me, I'm bigger, and I can verbally or physically destroy you in some way. And especially if they can also triangulate other people, if they can spin a story and create drama that makes you look bad, and then they can sit back and passively watch the drama and know that they created it, they'll enjoy it. But then they sort of watch you emotionally spin out of control, and then they watch how other people are attacking you because of the stories that they told. So that's sadism. So what do we do about that? What do we do when that is happening in our social circles, especially when those people are the ones closest to us, that are in our closest social circles? So it's really unfortunate, but let's say Schadenfreude. This is the passive reveling of your misfortune. You just sort of notice that your loved one is enjoying if you don't do well. So that's when you start to maybe not share when things don't go your way. They don't get to know that. But if they just happen to see it, make sure that you have, number one, you have mechanisms in place that you are self-soothing, that you know that mistakes are a part of everyday life. It just happens. And sometimes it happens to teach you lessons so that you can gain knowledge and understanding and personal growth. So try not to let it get you down, but do personal work so that you are the one that's self-soothing. Number two, find somebody else other than this person who is enjoying your misfortune and your misery. Find somebody else to help you soothe. So if you need some outside processing, XYZ happened, it was really embarrassing, I was humiliated, whatever, you tell your story and you have that person help you process what happened and give you outside perspective. Have them help you see yourself in a way that boosts confidence, boosts self-esteem, and gives you confidence in being able to pick up and move on. And it's not as bad as it seems, that sort of thing. So that's really, really important to when the aggressor, will say, or the enjoyer of the misfortune, is sort of trying to explode and exploit the misfortune, making it huge and into this big thing. You need to offset that power dynamic by making the misfortune maybe not as big. And then also your own personal strengths and your awesomeness, make sure that you grow those and make those bigger. And we don't want to, especially if we're spinning the story for ourselves or if we're spinning the story in front of other people, we don't want to get into the trap where we are using the situation of them being a terrible villain, we'll say. If they're a villain in your story, they're sort of enjoying your misfortune. We don't want to then become the person that exploits that behavior and says, look how bad they are, look what they are doing, and then use that as a mechanism to then lift you up and say, I'm not like that. Because you don't want to be the person that switches that dynamic. You don't want to be guilty of the thing that you're accusing them of. So be very careful about that, because oftentimes that does happen. For the things that we're accusing other people, sometimes we become guilty of that very same thing. So then in the case of sadism, when somebody is purposefully finding your vulnerabilities, finding your last nerve, finding your insecurities, and using those to exploit, humiliate, or otherwise undermine you, especially in a crowd or in front of other people, the best, if it's just one-on-one, that's different. So let's just say one-on-one. One-on-one, you want to make sure that they don't get the pleasure of watching you squirm or watching you react. Your reaction is then all of a sudden just blasé. They don't get to see you squirm. They don't get to see you fight back. They don't get to see you attack them back, because that's what they want. They want to see, oh, you're crazy now, and now I get to then weaponize that and do some crazy making and say, I was just kidding, or I was just, they'll minimize and dismiss you in some way. And then the more you dig your heels in and say, no, that was bad, you shouldn't do that, you do this all the time, and they're like, they'll just say, no, I'm not, I didn't do that, look, you're too sensitive. So then you may be sensitive, but that's okay. You just don't get to trust that they're going to be the one that soothes you anymore. So your reaction needs to be blasé. Or you can just ask them to say it again. Can you repeat what you just said? And that way it takes the mirror off of you and flips it right back around on them. And then all of a sudden there's heat. Go ahead and say that again. And then they can hear what they just said and make sure that they want to say what they just said. And then if they say it again, you can just say, interesting. And then again, blasé, move on, and not give them the pleasure of your response. So, but in the case of exploiting you in front of other people, again, it can be the same thing. So now the other people are seeing what they're saying and making sure that the pressure and heat stays on them and their bad behavior. Make sure that you don't overreact. And then again, make sure that you have a good social support system that is outside of them and the circles that they perceive that they're trying to control. If this is a physically abusive situation, you need to make sure that you get yourself safe so that this is not going to continue. And if it is, call upon people who are bigger than they are. A parent, educators if it's at school, employers or HR if it's at work, and escalate that to people who are bigger than them so that you can get yourself safe and that you can get yourself in a situation where this isn't happening frequently to you. But it's really important for you also to be constantly growing your emotional intelligence, that you are in control and understanding of the inner workings of your own mind and your own emotions, so that you get to be the one that is in charge of your own reactions. You're not going to be perfect at it, and that's okay. But you need to understand that you can be okay with that when you're not going to be perfect. And then another thing is the humiliation aspect of sadism, or even Schadenfreude, epicaricacy, is the humiliation you can turn into a superpower. Get really, really good at feeling humiliated, being humiliated. You could turn that into a superpower so that it becomes a strength for you. It's just funny that I got humiliated again, and it can be a thing that becomes a superpower for you. Or that even you're very good at feeling humiliated without reacting. You can use it in a couple different ways, where you just laugh along, or you gain some strength. And the other piece that would be really great for you also is develop yourself, and make sure that you're developing your own self-affirming activities, self-affirming ways of living, character development, hobby development, friend circle development, different places where you know that you can go and experience healthy relationships that don't include this dynamic, so that you are gaining a broader perspective of self other than this person, this moment, and this relationship. If you are experiencing any of these dynamics and these behaviors are popping up in your world, you just need to acknowledge this is not okay. This is not normal or healthy. This is not acceptable to me. And you don't necessarily even need to confront the person about it. You just need to start to peel back maybe even your vulnerabilities. And even if they seem to always exploit you, even if you peel back, being able to be blasé in your response, strong in your own internal processing, and also developing yourself always over time, so that when you make mistakes, it's okay, and that you know that you can grow from them. And even if you're humiliated, you know that you will rise again tomorrow, or rise in another aspect, or you have room for growth, or there's still time. So it sort of minimizes these moments that seem really poignant and painful, and people are laughing or mocking or humiliating in some way, and sort of enjoying it when you are not doing so well. And that's so hard to do, especially when your own ego is not the greatest. Ego development, personal strength is such a beautiful thing when it comes from confidence in your own there's a dog, in your own abilities to be who you are meant to be, and this development. So I hope that really helps you. And then I encourage you to go back to the end of episode 1 and do a Ho'oponopono exercise. In fact, we could probably just do that right now. So let's do a quick Ho'oponopono exercise before we exit. Just imagine an infinity loop between you and the other person. And imagine saying the words, forgive me, I'm sorry, thank you, I love you. See an infinity loop passing between the two of you, going into the other person, infinity loop coming to you, and then back to the other person. I love you. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Thank you. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Forgive me. See those words passing between you and the other person. See it clearing whatever happened, and you don't even ever have to have them say sorry. It's okay. You can still grow. You can still become the amazing human that you are meant to be. even in light of this misfortune, even in light of this weakness, whatever the weakness is that's being exploited, you can still become. You can still find your highest and truest and best self. And you can do it now, and you can do it tomorrow, and you can do it over time. And stumbling and falling and embarrassment and humiliation is just a part of a growing story, because it gives you the opportunity to learn something about yourself and to grow who you are. So say Ho'oponopono. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Thank you. I love you. See those words passing between you and the other person, and find ways for you to grow yourself, your confidence, your abilities, and know that even if you get humiliated and you make mistakes, there's always tomorrow, and there's ways that you can grow, and you can separate yourself from these incidences and this person, and that you can find ways within yourself and social situations that are healthy for you as well. I hope that helps you, and I will see you